Question time. I don't think there's that many today. Let's see. I think Twitter's been acting up, and that has affected our total load of questions. PFT PM policy. Why does the NFL prohibit players from marketing alcohol? Is it so the booze money has to go through the league/team coffers instead of players? Similar to how the NCAA coaches and announcers didn't want players to get NIL money because it would hurt their income. You know, I mean, the cynical side of me does say this league's do as we say, not as we do approach to players marketing beer. Yeah, it makes it easier for the league to say, gimme, gimme, gimme. You're really not going to get your bang for the buck. We're not going to let you pay Patrick Mahomes to hold a can of beer. He can hold a flashlight that says Coors Light, which is why this topic is relevant right now. It's a workaround for the NFL's rules, but there is a hypocrisy in the league preventing the players from marketing certain things when the league has official beer sponsor, official wine sponsor, official spirits sponsor, 7 sportsbook partners. All of the various legal vices are being embraced by the league. And as I said earlier today, it's just a matter of time before they have a marijuana sponsor. It's just a matter of time before the NFL has its first ever marijuana sponsor. You wait and see. All right, what do we have here? PFT PM policy. With the Panthers having one of the wealthiest owners in the NFL who appears willing to spend whatever it takes to try to win, why do they keep getting spurned by the best free agents, quarterbacks, and even head coaches when there's no salary cap or spending limit? Well, wait. They got Matt Rule when he was ready to go interview with the Giants because they were willing to pay him an ungodly amount. And the Giants said, screw that. So David Tepper's willing to spend. I just feel like his impatience comes through a little bit too strongly, and his desire to just be able to spend his way into relevance and contention. There's a fine line between that and desperation. I mean, for whatever reason, Deshaun Watson wanted nothing to do with the Panthers last year or this year. He played college football at Clemson. So that was kind of odd. And the idea that they just kind of settled for Baker Mayfield, that they weren't able to attract a top-end talent. It's not like Russell Wilson said, hey, Carolina's the place I need to go. So I just think that it can be counterproductive to have an owner who just, it feels like Tepper is just gripping too hard, that he's trying too desperately to turn his team into a contender. And it's got to be frustrating for folks who have made billions, and he's worth like 16.7 billion. People who have made billions in other lines of work, they come to the NFL and they think that through hard work, determination, force of personality, whatever the case may be, they're going to finagle themselves a winner. Doesn't happen that way, in large part because most of the other owners got there the same way you did, except for the ones who inherited their teams. It's not as easy to succeed in the zero-sum game of the NFL as it is in the business world, where a lot of people, an unlimited number of people, if they play their cards right, can get really, really rich. All right. Neil watches PFT. Looks like the much anticipated white helmets did come for the Bengals. Yes, they are. Which alternate helmets are you most excited for? I'll admit that I've got some recency bias with the Bengals white helmets, although I remember when they launched their color rush uniforms, white on white with the black stripes. It's like, man, too bad for this stupid NFL rule that prevents teams from using a second helmet, because it would be awesome to see that white helmet with the black stripes. Now, it may be a letdown when we finally see it because we've been waiting for it for 5 or 6 years, but that's the one I'm excited for. And I like the idea that we've got some throwbacks that are going to be very fascinating. The Eagles with the Kelly Green helmets, the Buccaneers with the Bucco Bruce, the Pat Patriot, but then you've got the Texans going with the red helmet. That surprised everyone when that dropped the other day. This Bengals embrace of the white helmet. So there's a lot of creativity that teams can apply here. And any team out there, as I mentioned in the post that we did on the white Bengals helmet, if you don't already have a second helmet, get to work. I mean, football is business, and part of the business is selling stuff. And if you can craft an alternate helmet that people say, wow, you're going to sell a lot of them. You're going to sell them to your fans, and you're going to sell them to not your fans. I got a collection of mini helmets down in the barn, and I guarantee you I'm getting myself a white Bengals helmet. I'm getting myself a red Texans helmet, and maybe some of the other ones. I already have the Bucco Bruce down there. I think I already have the Pat Patriot down there. It may be up at the house, but either way, these alternate helmets are awesome. And any team, as I said, that doesn't have one needs to get one. Neil watches PFT. Does Apple getting the Sunday ticket package spell the end of traditional television through cable or satellite? I don't think it spells the end, but streaming continues to grow and grow. I saw something yesterday. I didn't read the article, but I saw the headline that people in their 50s are actually driving this push towards streaming. I think because the younger demographic already has accepted it and it's baked in for them, the cord cutter, the term we used to use. I think that folks in my demographic are realizing this is easy. I mean, we got rid of DirecTV and went with YouTube TV a couple of years ago and haven't missed a beat, other than noticing how much less we pay every month for the channels that I watched then and that I watch now. And it's a lot easier to watch now. And when it rains really hard or snows, I don't have to worry about the signal going out. So people are starting to realize that there is an easier way to go. And you can get TV packages through streaming. You can do the collection of this one and this one and this one and this one. And the NFL is trying to make that transition. That's going to be the challenge. Can the NFL continue its ability to get 20 to 30 million people to all watch the same thing at the same time when it's streaming based versus TV based? And remember this, there are still millions out there who rely on the over-the-air signal from the traditional broadcast networks. That's not changing. There still will be people who have the current edition of the old rabbit ears. Folks my age remember working around it, trying to get that signal. You move it up, you move it down, you pull it out, you push it in, you attach a hanger to the back of the thing, all sorts of crazy stuff, tinfoil, anything you can to enhance that signal. So there's still people that consume their content that way. And presumably that number will be dropping as time goes by. All right. Neil watches PFT again. Between the Texans, Jets, and Jaguars, who has the most wins this next season? Who knows? The Jets? I don't know. The beauty for the Texans and Jaguars is they play each other twice. So one of them can pick up a couple of wins that way. The Jets are in a tough division. I feel like the Jets are in a position to make a move. I can make an argument for all of them, and I still think that the Texans are going to get Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm gonna punt on that one for now. Let's see what else we have here. Tommy Caruso, between the Commanders, Cowboys, and Texans, will the NFL ever step up and ban the use of NDAs by clubs in an effort to provide more transparency and avoid potential congressional oversight? This is the one piece of advice from Mary Jo White, who continually gets hired by the NFL to engage in these independent investigations. One piece of advice she gave after the Carolina Panthers investigation following the resignation of Jerry Richardson and sale of the team due to NDA issues was to stop using them. The NFL has never embraced that. NDAs are a valuable tool for corporate business. And there's a difference between, for example, forcing an employee who isn't represented by counsel, who is just in the course of his or her regular workplace activities, to sign off on an NDA. You're not really getting anything for it. You already have your job. And the best time to get anyone to sign anything is their first day on the job. You want the job? Sign all this stuff. They don't even read it. Sign it, sign it, sign it, sign it, sign it. And it's one thing, again, to prey on an individual who isn't represented in the confines of not a full-blown piece of litigation to sign an NDA. However, when the person has a lawyer, when a lawsuit has been filed or credibly threatened, and this is not extortion. We've said this before in the Deshaun Watson context. If you're going to sue someone, it's fair game to tell them ahead of time, I'm going to sue you unless we work this out. Let's work this out. If we don't, I will sue you. That's legitimate. But in that setting, either with the lawsuit filed or before it's filed, the person is represented by counsel. And part of the final negotiation includes a request by the employer, by whoever the company is that wants this to be secret. If the NDA request is made and it's part of what's bargained for as the negotiation unfolds, that is legitimate and it should be respected. That's where I struggle with this whole thing with NDAs. It is a legitimate tool for arm's length negotiations when a current or former employee is represented by counsel and is getting value. You're getting value extra money in exchange for keeping your mouth shut. And I always get a little nervous when somebody who was represented by counsel and signed a valid NDA and got paid for signing the valid NDA is breaching it. Now, the media outlet owner operator side of me wants that information. The person who wants transparency wants that information. But the recovering lawyer in me gets very nervous about it because silence is part of what was purchased when the claim was settled. So I think the NFL continues to struggle with that because it is a valid way to resolve claims before they blow up into something more significant. Because look at it this way. The Cowboys cheerleader situation, $2.4 million paid with an NDA. If I recall correctly, the individuals were represented by counsel. That's all buttoned up ahead of time. There's the extra value paid to get it resolved before a lawsuit is filed and before anyone says anything. That's part of the value. And I know it makes people a little nervous because there is a fine line there at some point between legitimate litigation and extortion. And part of the value of the settlement is the case never gets filed. It never becomes a big ordeal. But as long as the claim is legitimate, it's fair game. If it's just made up in an effort to shake down the Cowboys, that's different. But if, in this case, for example, it is legitimate that Rich Dalrymple secretly videotaped cheerleaders while they were changing clothes, look, it just falls into the lap of the lawyer who's handling the case. Hey, I've got a potential defendant here who really doesn't want this case to get filed, so there's settlement value. So extra money is paid to avoid the lawsuit. Extra money is paid in exchange for the promise to keep it confidential. That needs to be respected. And from the NFL's perspective, you want to have that device available because it reduces the number of lawsuits that get filed against teams alleging all sorts of misconduct and making the NFL look bad. I think that's why they haven't taken Mary Jo White's advice. So again, there's two different ways that NDAs can go. When you're using it to prey upon somebody who isn't represented, to take advantage of a situation, to get them to agree to be quiet and they really aren't getting anything in return, I got a problem with that. But when the person has a lawyer, when the person has a lawyer who negotiates extra value for that confidentiality agreement, that's part of the justice you're getting. Something bad happened to me. Something bad happened to me for which I'm entitled to compensation. I have a lawyer who is negotiating for that compensation. And on top of what I'm getting as compensation for what happened to me, I'm being paid more money to not talk about it. And I understand that. The lawyers explained it to me. Do you understand? If you want to have the ability to sit down with Bryant Gumbel or 60 Minutes or write something about it or whatever, if you want to have that ability, you don't take the money. If you take the money, you're giving up that ability. It's up to you. Can't have both. I think once you make the decision to take door number one and take the money and provide confidentiality, you got to respect it. You got to respect it. So I think that's why we're not going to see the NFL eliminate NDAs, because it really will put teams in a tougher spot where there's no way to keep this stuff quiet. Because why are you going to settle before the lawsuit's filed if the person can turn around and say, hey, I just settled with the Cowboys for $2.4 million. You want to know what happened? Tune in at 11. All right. Tune in tomorrow for more PFT OT. Thanks as always for some of your time. Check us out around the clock at profootballtalk.com. And unless nothing is happening tomorrow, we will wrap up the week with another PFT OT, trying to go 5 for 5 like Dave Parker back in the old days with the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll see if I can manage to at least beat out an infield single. Tune in tomorrow. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.